Welcome back to the Mobile World Congress discussion zone. And our next presenter is Bjorn Behre, who is Head of Business Development, European Service Providers at RAD. And Bjorn, you're going to be presenting on carrier grade virtual CPE, making it real.
Yes, right. Thank you. Today I'm going to speak about carrier grade vCPE and our journey to make this concept real. First, I want to describe to you who is RAD. Just short words about that. So RAD is an access company that is delivering CPEs to deliver business services, wholesale services, and services backhauling or mobile backhaul over Ethernet. And we also deliver CPEs for IP VPN connectivity. Furthermore, we are also working on distributing or to migrate legacy services to IP over different pseudo wires, over different media. So by this, RAD has a big experience in delivering CPEs to the service provider market. And from there, we have then a big experience in also going to the evolution of delivering virtual CPE services. And this is the background for this discussion today. Regarding vCPE solutions. So the target for the service provider going to virtual CPE solutions is to improve the scalability of service delivery, make it more efficient to deliver services, meaning today it is a very complicated task to deliver Ethernet services. There is many steps to take. It's a long procedure. It can be many months to deliver a service, and you need to improve the efficiency of delivering these services. And that's the target of going to a vCPE solution. Also, you need to reduce the cost of delivering these services. It's too costly today, all the processes. And also, you need to accelerate the process of delivering new services. Many times it can take years for a service provider to actually launch new services to the market. And this needs to be improved. And also, you want actually the customer to order services himself and not have the process of customer dialogue, long talks before the customer get ordered a service. So you want to automate all these processes from a customer ask for a service to deliver him the service. And this is the background for going to vCPE solutions. So a little about the perception in the market, what the vCPE solution is. So today, you have, when a customer makes an order, he usually call the service provider and say, I want this and this service. And after the service provider get this order, it might actually take weeks and several months to deliver an end-to-end service. And this is really a huge problem for the service providers today. When they deliver this service, usually you place a very feature-rich router in the customer location. You might add appliances for firewall services, for voice services, and so on. So you will have a range of boxes in the customer locations, and this is costly and very cumbersome to deploy. In the future, with implementing a vCPE solution, the expectation is that this delivery time will be much shorter. It might be days, maybe even hours, to deliver a new service. Everything should be automated. Also, the perception is that most of the service should be located in the data centers. And that means that the CPE that you expect to deliver there has very little features and very low cost. We have experienced now the last year or 2 years talking to service providers that this might be questionable if the reality is like this. So we have, during the last year, have discussions with service providers worldwide in Europe, in US, in APAC, discussing these solutions, having workshops, discussing how this solution should work, and also looking into different use cases. And what we find is really what are the real requirements for this CPE in the edge. And I will now go through this finding. And I have some use cases to describe this. So one example is that the customer would like more flexible overlay transport solution, meaning that the customer would like to have several delivery options. So, for example, the high class traffic, business traffic, should go over the MPLS network. Less important traffic could go over the internet and thereby be cheaper. And you also could like to have a backup solution over LTE. And this is a flexibility that you want to have in the future solution. Also, you would like to have LTE because actually if you have delivered the service over LTE, you can actually place the device in the customer location and activate the service the same day. So very fast service activation you can get from this solution. Now this requires a lot of features to actually enable this. It requires advanced quality of service, it requires encrypted tunnel, it requires router and intelligence to make decision where to route the traffic. So this is an example of a future service delivery. Another example is that you would like to have some value-added services also in the customer location. For example, you have a shop that deliver Wi-Fi service to the customer when they enter the shop. This kind of service you don't want to transport over the expensive line over MPLS. You would like to go directly to the internet. That means that you would also need to have a local fan-out in the device, and you would like to have a firewall there to protect your network. This is an example of value-added service you need in the customer location. Another use case is that service providers want to have all the access interfaces available in the device itself. So some of the customers want, say, 4G LTE interface and going to use that for service delivery. Other customers want GPON interfaces. And we have also customers that look for legacy E1, E3 interfaces. And it continues with different access options. Now, this requires that the CPE out there will be very flexible and have a range of interfaces, which is not the case today. So another really huge requirement that we find by the service providers. Another use case we see is that service provider more and more look for getting performance data to improve the quality of experience for customers. So you all the time need to measure the quality end-to-end between sites, between the CPE and the data center. And even now, when we go over to virtualized services, it becomes more and more important to actually have a visibility of the performance. The problem now with the virtual architecture is that you will not always know where the traffic will be routed in a network. And we have seen that several examples of that today, where in the data center you might have different paths through the network dependent on what application you are going into, dependent on what load there is in the data center. So end-to-end performance monitoring is extremely important going forward. So in the end of the day, what we find out is that instead of decreasing features in the CPE, actually we need to increase the number of features. And that means we will need to implement interfaces. We need to implement zero-touch provisioning. We need to implement overlay tunneling features with encryption of tunnels and better operational management. And the range of features continue. So what we find out is we need to implement much more features in the CPE than the market expected. And on top of that, the solution needs to be carrier grade, meaning carrier grade means that it needs to have uptime like a service provider required today, according to the SLA contract that the service provider make with the customers. And what we find is that that simple switch that the market expects to be in the customer location cannot do this job. And this is a kind of a totally different conclusion than the market have got today. So what is required? We require a device that have a range of basic functionality. It needs to be a very advanced physical CPE or a universal CPE that can add features according to the need of the service provider and the customers. And it needs also a carrier-grade operating system to assure the services end-to-end. And on top of that, it needs to support a range of interfaces, so you don't need to have a separate installation of a uplink device and a service device. On top of that, you actually need to have availability of different virtual services like firewalls, like routers, like SD-WAN capability, like session border controllers, and it goes on to have this flexibility. And what RAD is doing based on this talk with the service provider is that we have built a range of products that is fitting these needs. So we have virtual or a kind of white box CPE where you can virtualize local services. We have a range of flexible interfaces that you can plug into this white box to satisfy all the uplink requirements. And then we have also different white boxes with acceleration, so we can accelerate certain functions like encryption, like tunneling, like routing, like Ethernet OEM. And on top of that, we have made an operating system that can enable all these pluggables to work together. So this is what RAD now have created based on all this talk with our customers. And that means that this simple CPE that the market believe should be in the edge will more look like a universal CPE, have more advanced function than before, and cannot be a simple switch. And that's the conclusion of our, say, market research in this area. In the end, before we're finishing, I want to make everyone aware of our solution in our booth that we're demonstrating together with HP, SD-WAN solution, where we're using HP Open SDN controller together with RAD virtual CPEs. And together we are making then a combined SD-WAN solution that we believe will be very attractive to the market. So everyone, welcome to come to our booth and see this solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Bjorn. Fascinating research there. Makes you almost rethink everything you thought you knew about virtual CPE. Let me see, have any questions from our audience? Anyone have a question for Bjorn? In which case, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Are there certain types of telcos who are adopting virtual CPE rather than others? Does it depend on the type of service provider or telco?
It depends actually more on the use cases they want to address. So some use cases, some customer might need virtualization in the data center, but others might need virtualization in the customer location and need this more advanced CPE. So what we see is actually RFPs and RFQs coming that describe actually the universal CPE. So it comes from all the directions actually.
Great. Bjorn, thank you very much.
Welcome.